Who would like to be the first to ask a question of our panelists?
Okay, so you're a public school librarian.
Yes.
That's kind of what I'm interested in, so got great questions. So you became a teacher first. You got your teaching certification. You got an undergraduate in that, and then you went back and got the master's.
Yes.
And so that.
And actually, my undergraduate was in psychology, and I got into teaching sort of by accident. When my kids all got in school, is when I started back to work, and I started in the office. I've done about everything in the school district you can imagine. And while I was in the office, information came through about an alternative certification program with the Texas Wesleyan. So I actually got my teaching certification through that and became a teacher. Now, to become a school librarian, you don't have to have an MLS. Right now, the state of Texas sometimes changes its requirements. Right now, you just have to have a master's. And if you have a master's, then you can take some required courses. Each university has a little bit of flexibility on what courses they required for certification. And so, but the good thing I think about even if you're going to be a school librarian and you already have a master's, so you think I'm not going to get an MLS. You might not have to have an MLS for school librarian, but you do for public or academic. And a lot of school librarians will move to the public library arena, especially after they retire, because of their school literature background, that they are very well received in the public library. So.
I forgot to mention, if you would introduce yourself before you ask your questions of our folks, that way they can be a little more personal. Who'd like to ask the next question? Okay, well, I've got one. I've got a list of them right here. I'm going to steal yours.
Sure.
It sometimes takes people to get warmed up. I think maybe I talked to a lot of students that tell me some of the reasons why they want to work in a library or research environment. And I guess for each of the panelists, if you could kind of maybe help me and help the students dispel some of the myths about working in the field, or some of the preconceived notions that people may carry into this and they may find as a rude awakening once they get their first professional job. Start with Sarah? Or whoever would like to jump in.
Feel free to jump in. To dispel some of the myths.
Well, or any preconceived notions somebody may not know about working either in a special library or in a research situation or public or even academic.
One thing I think you just have to be prepared to wear a lot of different hats, and you have to have a lot of flexibility. And so, like my personality, I love that. I don't want to be rigid in just one role all day long, but I think that you need to be prepared to, that you're going to be asked to do a lot of different things, take on a lot of different responsibilities, and just be prepared for that you may be called on to do something that doesn't necessarily fall within your job description, but you may discover that it's something that you really enjoy doing and want to continue to build upon. So that's one thing I can think of right away.
Well, for me, being in a medical library, I think that a lot of people don't even bother to apply in medical if they don't have a background in biology or if they weren't pre-med. My undergraduate degree is in Latin American Studies. The director of the library has a liberal arts background. You'll have to learn medical vocabulary, but you don't necessarily have to have that. I think once you're a good librarian in one discipline, you can really learn how to do it in another. And so I think a lot of people might be scared. There's lots of good associations in the area that offer courses in learning how to search Medline. The National Network of Libraries of Medicine they have classes in Fort Worth annually at the Health Science Library there. There's classes sometimes at UT Southwestern in Dallas, the Community College in McKinney. So there's a lot of opportunity to learn. Just don't feel scared, I was really scared to apply for that job when I saw it, and it was back when they posted jobs in the newspaper. But I did, and I had a really great mentor, and you can really learn a lot from your co-workers, and I think if you are interested, then it's a possibility. And I agree with everything she said too. You're going to have to be very flexible and do different duties. It's not going to be run of the mill. And you're not going to be reading books. You're not going to be shelving. You know, you can't just sit at your desk and have it all hunky-dory. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's really rewarding.
I agree. Flexibility is the name of the game for a school librarian. One myth that some students have, I don't think a lot, but I have had students actually call me and tell me this is why they wanted to be a librarian, because they didn't want to teach anymore. And as a school librarian, you are heavily involved in teaching and collaborating with the classroom teacher. So if that's one myth, I would say, I would dispel that. The good thing, I think, is that you don't have grades, you know, at least for most schools I've seen. And that's always a plus. But when you're out working in the library with students and helping them, that's the fun time. But you still have to go back when the day is done and work on your budget and your ordering and your weeding and inventory. And those are fun too, really. But there's a lot more involved than just being out and doing the fun stuff of trying to encourage students to be readers and doing book talks and things like that. Oh, and if there's one thing I'd say, as a school librarian, a lot's really expected of you. Somehow or another, in the school, you are the expert in everything. You'll be pulled to do science fair judging, school bee judging, you know, just everything. And the main thing is I always tell my students, when your principal says do something, you don't say, that's not my job. You just say, great, and you just do it and just enjoy it.
Anyone have a question? Please.
This one's for Sarah Jo.
Hi, how are you?
I'm Hannah Guthrie. I'm a master's student here at UNT. But I have a question regarding special libraries.
Okay.
I should graduate in December, so I'm already kind of keeping my eye out for jobs, but I don't have a lot of research experience strictly for libraries. And so there aren't many entry-level jobs out there. Do you have any tips on how to find an entry-level job in the special library field? Or?
I think a lot of it deals with, you know, networking and just playing off of the people that you already know. I got my job at Spencer Stewart through, well, I was a teacher also. I taught for 5 years at Lamar High School in Arlington, and I was teaching when my friend called me about the job at Spencer Stewart. And some of you may know Katie Chamont. She was a classmate of mine in library school, and so when we were looking for someone to kind of take over my role, I called Margaret Carroll. I don't know if some of you know Margaret, and she said, call Katie. You know, she told me a couple of names to call, and I remembered Katie, and so Katie's worked for us now for I think almost 4 years, and she's fantastic. So really, you know, work off the people that you know, and, you know, just keep bugging them, and, you know, offer to do, I think you were talking about doing internships or just any sort of little special projects. We've had a couple of college students come into Spencer Stewart over summers or extended sort of winter periods and do, you know, research projects for us. But, you know, I was coming out of a classroom, English teaching environment, and I had no concept of using some of these online resources, you know, online business resources. And so it was just really on the job training. But I think, you know, just the basic research skills you're learning now will help you in that area. So just really tap into that network, and we can talk more about that too. Okay,
I've got actually a question here that's going to work off yours a little bit, so I'm going to interject that. And again, this is for all the panelists. For someone trying to meet people or getting to know professionals if they're in school and they don't have a lot of friends in the field, what role do conferences and professional associations play in helping them expand their network? And any experiences you may have in those areas?
I'll start. It's huge, I think. I belong to Special Libraries Association, SLA, and I attend, we usually have a big state something, you know, a state meeting once a year, usually in Houston or Dallas or San Antonio, and then there's a local chapter also that we get together, and I meet somebody new every time I go. So I think that's really huge, and it's opened my eyes to, because I think I've been at my job now almost 9 years, and I think I love my job, but what else could I do, to translate my skills into something else that could be interesting? So I'm always keeping my eyes and ears open to meet, find out what other people are doing in a special libraries environment that could be something that I could be interested in. So I think the professional associations are really huge, and just getting people's business cards, making contact with them afterwards with just a quick email to follow up. Hey, it was nice to meet you, and just touching base from time to time to see how they're doing. Keeping your name top of their mind.